I'm sitting in front of my TV set watching you on my TV.
I thought you were going to say you were watching Gunsmoke, Ron.
All right.
Recording has started.
Go ahead. We'll call the meeting to order. And Michelle, can you take roll call?
Yes. Mayor Horn.
Here.
Alderman Kittle.
Here.
Alderman Lindell.
Here.
Alderman Weinmeier. Alderman Montello.
Here.
Alderman Volkert.
Here.
Alderman Kraft.
Here.
All right. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I can tell you, I like it when there's a crowd in here, just a few of us. Item 4 is adoption of agenda.
I'll make a motion we adopt the agenda.
We have a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We'll say it's carried. Public comments. Does anybody wish to make a public comment at this time? I see no one rushing to the podium here at City Hall, so I'm assuming no one wants to speak. Item 6 is consent agenda. Just a few
I'll
items
make a motion
there.
that we approve the consent agenda.
All right, there is a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 8, new business. 8.1 is the focus group action items. And I'll turn it to Mike. Am I going to turn it to Kyle?
Hi, I'm Julie Irwin. I'm one of the youth librarians at Friday Memorial Library, and today I'm going to take you through our focus group that met last week and share those findings with you along with our action items that we are proposing. First, a little bit about the group. It was 29 community participants along with 4 staff facilitators and an additional 4 staff who helped with the group. And this group was meant to be just a small cross-section of our community that provided immediate and meaningful dialogue and recommendations for council consideration. Some key findings from this is that our community is looking for a comprehensive community collaboration in response to this pandemic. They really would like a balance between many things, but all which support human connection. The first is that they would like a balance between federal and state guidelines and city and county standards. They would like a balance between uniformity of those guidelines and some flexibility for individual circumstances. They would like a balance between short-term response with some long-term planning. They want to see a balance between public health and safety and economic development. They want to see a balance between individual and business freedoms with social responsibility. And lastly, they want a balance seen between the uncertainty of this time with some predictability to help just keep us connected and humans thriving. So from that, we've created 2 action items. One is the New Richmond Strong Community Prosperity Proposal, and the other is the St. Croix Strong Community Prosperity Proposal. Both of these are meant to show that we want to work together. We want to communicate together what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what we can do to move forward, looking from a very comprehensive view of what we need in this region. So not just here in New Richmond, but we would like to extend it to St. Croix County so that other cities like River Falls and Hudson are aware of what we're doing, and we can work together so that we can avoid creating any sort of unhealthy competition between our communities. So this would be an advisory committee that works together to take some immediate reactions with pandemic planning for public health, but along with keeping in mind the other balances that our communities are looking for. These groups would probably meet about weekly or as needed during this time through virtual meetings. Further details are available if you'd like them, and thank you for considering these proposals.
So, does anybody have any questions on what they just listened to? And, all right, so I know there's 4 other committee members that focus group had participated. Any one of those, Angela Olson, and I'm probably forgetting the other names. Scott. Martin. Oh yeah, Cindy. Any input or any comments from you guys?
Yeah, this is Cindy. I think one part that got brought up with our group too was a lot of issues with concern about enforcement. Like, what are the repercussions going to be if they go against the state guidelines? So I think there's a lot of concern with that as well. And just everybody is very concerned about their workers, their people coming into their business. It's just a lot of concern, and how are they going to move forward as a community? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any of the others?
This is Angela Olson, and I think that the overview that we heard was pretty accurate, at least from our group standpoint. I'm a part of group 2, and uniformity is what we're all looking for, and some balance, which I think that the whole country and the whole world is looking for. So, but just really putting those wheels in motion once we get more of a directive from the Supreme Court, what their thoughts are on Governor Evers' orders. And then also really having that continuity within our own community, because we've obviously got challenges coming from the entire state, neighboring communities, neighboring counties that are doing different things. So we want our community to feel safe and secure, that we're doing the right thing when we've got other people that are coming in and out of our community that are maybe doing something different.
And I know Mike Darrow has been working with the city administrators of Hudson and River Falls. I've had conversations with the mayor of Hudson. I've also reached out to the mayor of River Falls. I've spoken with the county board chair. Kind of that's on that same order of make sure we're all consistent and kind of speaking, maybe not with one voice, but let's be consistent throughout the county, and whatever next steps there are, so that we're consistent, we're not creating issues for other communities as things start to open up, and how do we all play nice together and safely together? I don't know, Mike, if you have anything?
No.
This is Scott from Group 1.
That's Scott.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. That was, I mean, we spent a lot of time in Group 1 talking about just individual responsibility and, you know, people being able to make their own decisions. You know, on behalf of the group, I mean, there was obviously some other different opinions, but we all kind of agreed that the big thing is we really need to make sure that everyone, I don't know how I mean, I work at the grocery store. I run the grocery store in New Richmond, and I can tell you in the beginning, things were kind of chaotic, but now, you know, you see people who are, you know, they're, you know, wearing the masks or social distancing. They're doing all the things that we're telling them to do. They're not complaining, but a lot of them are against it, but they're still doing it. I think we're kind of at a point where there's a lot of mutual respect. I know in the media, on the news, you hear about all these crazy stories, but around here, I think a lot of people are being really reasonable and respectful, and I think whatever decisions that we need to make should reflect that, we have a community that is being respectful.
Thank you. Does anybody on the council have any questions on so in your packet, in your memos, there's the recommendations, there's 3 action items. Any questions or comments?
I just want to say this. I think it was great that there are people in the community that were willing to get involved and let their voices be heard. It's really easy to go onto social media and hear a lot of stuff from folks, but to have people actually part of a focus group where we've got dialogue back and forth, the concerns are real, the concerns are deep. I think if I tried to kind of just boil it down, the 2 main concerns have to do with folks' health and well-being and the financial health and well-being of businesses and in our community. And they both demand action. And I can't sit here and say I know exactly what that looks like, but I know this is a great first step of just getting people to talk so we can get some representative voices from the community, because I don't think it's going to be easy going forward, knowing what the right thing to do. Generally, sure, I think that's kind of easy to think about, but when you talk about specifics, it would be great if the governor gave us more latitude. I think we desperately need that. I think there's things that we can do in this region that make sense for our area. And can help people stay safe. So just looking forward to seeing some action. I think the proposal put forth that's born out of this is a great idea, and not to stifle anybody, but I'm going to make a motion that we approve this recommendation to support New Richmond Strong as it's laid out, St. Croix Strong, this community prosperity, that part of it, kind of bigger area, and then the New Richmond Economic Prosperity Commission. I think what that's going to look like in its finality, I don't know. I mean, we got a great idea of what it's going to be, but I'm going to make a motion that we approve that particular plan of action.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve action item 1, 2, and 3. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Carrie, did you make the second?
I did.
Okay, there's a delay in the screen I'm watching. All right, so we have a motion and a second. So I'll open it up for discussion, but first I'd like Mike Mike Darrow to kind of at a height at the 30,000-foot level, kind of cover a brief on each one of those, and then we'll open it up to the rest of the council.
Sure. Now, can you hear me? Okay. So action item 1 is the New Richmond Strong Community Prosperity Proposal. And as Julie mentioned, we're looking for members of the city's CERT team, which is the Community Emergency Response Team, member of Public Health, representatives from the focus group. And again, as Julie said, there was about 29 community members that took place in that focus group, so we'll ask for some volunteers there. We'll have some key staff, which will be non-voting members, and we hope to set those meetings up probably every week, as soon as probably Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, as the governor starts to, again, amend some of or create some new orders. A new one came out during our call this morning or this afternoon at noon. And so that group is intended to look at the merits, look at how it impacts community health, as Angela said, looking at uniformity within other communities and enforcement, as Cindy talked about. So that's the essence of that group. The second group, as the mayor said, is, having your conversations that you had today with mayors of Hudson and River Falls and St. Croix County. It's important to bring this type of proposal countywide so that there's a lack of silos. So the second action item is more of a countywide initiative. And then the third item is to look at specific economic issues. And I credit Beth Thompson and her team for reaching out to our businesses. But simply put, there's economic challenges that they face regardless of the governor's orders or the Supreme Court's orders. So we want to have a forward-thinking group that's looking at things like crowdfunding, special events, as well as financial flexibility in other areas as well. So that's kind of a recap of all three of those action items.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second to approve all three of these. If there's no other discussion, we'll call the roll. You're up, Michelle.
I know. Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Alderman Lindell.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Alderman Kraft.
Yes.
And I want to thank all of the participants of the committee so far. Like Montello was saying, you guys put a lot of effort. There's a lot of interest in this. I think many people are aware we're getting a lot of pressure to move quicker than maybe what the governor is moving. So these committees, I think the council is going to be looking at for their recommendations and their input, their time. I just want to give a big thank you ahead of time. It's a major undertaking for our community, and it is obviously extremely important. So I just want to say thank you guys ahead of time. All right, so item 8.2 is emergency government extension through June 30th, 2020.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On March 23rd, the City Council, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, reorganized city operations to focus on the core areas of emergency management, finance, administration, HR, community outreach, and public facilities. This action extended this reorganization of city operations through June 1st of 2020. In light of the continuing environment amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, it is the recommendation that we continue to extend this form of government through June 30th of 2020.
So Alderman, does anybody have any questions? Not seeing or hearing any. Floor is open.
Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion that we approve the extension till the 30th of June.
All right, there is a motion to approve the extension by Alderman Montello. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Is there any discussion?
Why are we going and reaching out further than even the state has at this point? Why are we going all the way to the end of June?
I think some of that, Kurt, is just due to the uncertainty at this point, and it's still we're still gonna need time to ramp up in certain areas. Right now, under the previous discussion with the council, it went until the end of this month. And our feeling is that for another 30 days, basically, that the city council has authorization in all areas and all departments as we, particularly in light of bringing back some detailed financial discussions for this past 3 months and then the rest of the year moving forward.
Well, the reason that I say that is I'd kind of like to see the committees, the standing committees, get back into the swing here and start returning things to some normalcy. You know, I'm talking about like Public Works Committee. We haven't met, and perhaps we should, and along with the utilities and so on.
Yeah, and our thought is obviously to bring folks in, and we've been, I think, doing a good job of through our weekend reviews and conversations with not only the council but other stakeholders as well, and letting them know at this point, you know, given that the council asked staff to bring back proposals during that first meeting in June, we felt that it's wise to hold off on committees until the council meets as a whole to better understand our financial kind of outlook for the next 6 months ahead.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, call the roll.
Alderman Lindell.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Alderman Kraft.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
All right, and that passes. Item 8.3 is the budget revenue and expenditure update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to provide you with an update on the financial position of the city. On March 23rd, the City Council took significant action in response to the COVID-19 pandemic to contain costs and focus our expenditures on the delivery of essential services. To date, we have reduced costs by $971,000 through the cancellation of contracts, postponement of projects, and reductions in operating budgets, which are detailed in your packet. While it is still early to predict the exact impact on revenues, our current forecast anticipates we will have a revenue shortfall in the general fund of $250,000 to $280,000. This is better than we had previously anticipated, where we thought revenues would be a shortfall of about $450,000. This shortfall is anticipated from the fees that the city collects for services such as building permits, business and licensing fees, and also room tax collections. For the cost containment reductions we have implemented to date, we have been able to offset these anticipated revenue losses. We continue to closely monitor revenue and expenditures and will provide monthly updates to the council. Additionally, staff have been evaluating various licensing and fee structures, which we will bring forward for your consideration during the June council meeting. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Just when we talk about the budget, it's kind of interesting. We tend to think of ourselves as, you know, we are a separate unit of government. Just reading something today that the state of Wisconsin, I think, if I remember this correctly, their budget, their projected revenues was something like $1 billion less in April than they forecast. So as you think about perhaps what we're seeing today isn't necessarily indicative of what the future and in the future might be over the next couple of years in terms of state revenues available. There are some significant changes in governmental revenue, certainly at a larger level, anticipated going forward. So I just think it's really smart for us to be super conservative here and try to maintain some budget room for some things that need some help that we aren't even aware of right now.
I think that's well put. We don't know how bad this is going to get. For our, you know, looking at our downtown businesses and how they're hurting, I think being ultra conservative in our spending right now is the prudent thing to be. Any other questions or comments from anybody? All right, not seeing or hearing. Thank you, Rayanne.
You're welcome.
Item 8.4 is the Jefferson Marshall Street and Utility Improvements Contract Award.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At the March Council meeting, staff were directed to solicit bids for the 2020 Street and Utility Improvements Project. It includes primarily the reconstruction of Jefferson Road, Marshall Road, and one block of West Lincoln Road, along with ancillary trail and utility items. Bids were opened on May 1st, 2020, with 2 bids received from A1 Excavating and Haas Sons. The low bid was submitted by Haas Sons in the amount of $1,662,268.38. Staff also solicited a proposal from SEH, who was previously selected as the engineering consultant on the project. Their proposed construction services contract is for $119,500. With these amounts in mind, the total project costs come to $1,835,809.92, which is within about $8,000 of what was approved in the capital plan for 2020. The full breakdown of these dollar amounts is included in the memo for tonight's meeting. Staff are recommending award of the contract to Haas Sons Incorporated for $1,662,268.38 and authorizing staff to contract with SEH for construction services at the proposed amount of $119,500.
Amazing how Jeremiah can jump around from static to something more non-attic looking and dress down a little bit. So kudos to Jeremiah. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Jeremiah, who did the North Fourth project?
McCabe Construction did North Fourth, I believe.
So when we have Haas and Sons awarded this bid and people want to run lines from their house to the street, is there any kind of wiggle room as far as Haas goes? Will they do that? Will they give them a break on the price?
Yeah, so I've asked the question. I haven't gotten a response yet from Haas, but that's certainly something that we want to.
Especially in this area, this is going to be a big issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and what I will say is that a lot of the residents there have already gotten several quotes and made arrangements and that type of stuff too. So I think that if Haas is willing to do that, it'd be another quote for them to consider. But for the most part, a lot of the residents that I've talked to have kind of a plan in place already to get their portion of the water and sewer laterals replaced.
Okay. So it's taken care of.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good. Is there any other discussion? All right. I would entertain a motion at this time.
I would make a motion to award Haas and Sons the bid for the Marshall Jefferson Road utility improvements.
And you're going to include SEH?
Sure, yeah, and the SCH part of it for the engineering fees.
For the $119,500. We have a motion to approve the award of the contract to Haas and Sons, or Haas Sons, and SCH for the construction services. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Tom. So is there any discussion?
I just think it's important for folks to remember, if they weren't tuned in here a month ago, that we had some conversation about whether or not this is the type of project we should continue with in terms of the financial uncertainty that is part of the landscape, and that we made a decision, in fact, that this project is desperately needed in that area. And so we did visit that. I guess just to remind people that we did visit that and decided to go ahead based on the need for this project to get done and the planning that's gone into place, and the fact that folks that live in that neighborhood are desperately waiting for the new sewer lines. Right, Jeremiah?
That's correct.
All right, is there any other discussion? All right, not seeing or hearing any, can we call the roll?
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Lindell.
Yes.
All right, and that motion passes. Item 8.5 is the 2020 financing for capital projects.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The adopted 2020 capital budget had planned for financing projects through bond issuance as well as local financing for the projects that did not qualify for bonds. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, most capital projects have been postponed. We do have just under $2.7 million in city and utility projects related to construction that have been authorized to move forward with in 2020. These projects include the Jefferson and Marshall Street and Utility reconstruction, the Double G water main extension, the Nature Center to Door Prairie Trail, County Road A trail design, as well as a snowblower replacement and self-contained breathing apparatuses that were replaced in January of this year. In consulting with Ehlers, our financial advisor, we've evaluated various options in order to finance these projects. We have evaluated a bond issuance, an RFP through a general obligation promissory note, and the state trust fund loan. Based upon our evaluation, a bond issuance or a general obligation note are the best options based upon an interest rate and cost of issuance perspective. However, given the recent COVID-19 pandemic, the issuance of a promissory note provides several advantages over bonding. The promissory note still provides a competitive interest rate, provides a lower cost of issuance, and a shorter duration to fund, as well as less staff resources in regards to issuance. Based upon this, staff and Ehlers does recommend the city to pursue a request for proposals from local and regional banks for a promissory note. We have in your packet included the pre-sale report, which outlines our approach for issuance of the RFP. We are asking for two options to be brought back to the council for consideration. Option 1 would fully amortize the issuance over a 10-year period with level repayments. Option 2 provides a 15-year amortization with 10-year repayments and a balloon payment in year 10. Issuing the RFP in such a way will allow us to evaluate which option will provide the city the best results amidst the current environment and into the future. We will bring those results back during the June council meeting. This issuance would be repaid from a variety of different sources. $1.2 million would be repaid over time through property tax levy. $884,000 of this issuance would be repaid from water utility revenues. $292,000 would be repaid from sewer utility revenues, and the final $286,000 would be repaid from stormwater utility revenues. At this time, staff is asking for the council to consider and recommend solicitation of competitive bids with the assistance of Ehlers for the purchase of a $2.7 $7 million general obligation promissory note. I would be happy to field any questions that the council has.
Thanks, Rayanne. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Ran a couple of things. Just looking through Eller's, I guess we call it the pre-sale report, and it's just a draft version. So if we do the 15-year amortization, well, really, let's just say the part that has the balloon, and it says no prepayment for 5 years. So if we had this idea that you and I and Kirk and Mike talked about last week, I think it was, that if you take the longer term and pay it as if it's on a short term, it looks to me like we can't do that for the first 5 years. Is that your understanding?
Correct. For the first 5 years, we couldn't, but that doesn't preclude the city from setting aside some of those principal payments so that when we get to that time frame, we could do a prepayment or pay down the balloon payment that would occur in year 10.
And so the annual obligation difference is about $90,000, give or take. If you do the straight 10-year payback versus that 15-year schedule with that balloon. So that's what we're talking about annually. It's interesting the way they put that together. They show no rate advantage. They're doing a 10-year straight. And I don't know if he just plugged that in or if that's what he really believes, that when you priced it out, you're going to get the same rate proposal on either option.
Based upon some of the bids that Ellers have seen come back from the market with similar sized issuances as well as similar ratings as what the city of New Richmond has, we haven't seen a large difference between the interest rate over a level 10-year repayment to a balloon payment over a 15-year period. So even at the 2.5% all-inclusive rate, we do feel that we are in a position where that rate is a pretty conservative number and would anticipate that our results would be better positioned than even the 2.5%. But based upon what they had been initially seen in the market, we felt comfortable using the same rate on both issuances, or on both options, I should say, not issuances.
But is it your understanding that, in fact, the rate on the 10-year straight payback versus the longer amortization, the rate actually might be a little bit less?
Correct. It could certainly be a little bit less. But that's also...
Go ahead.
That's also why we felt that given the environment that we're in and the rate structure, providing two options for the banks to provide a bid on then would allow us to see where those differences lie at too.
Sure. And then did Sean give you any idea that if we did GEO bond financing, what the difference in rate may be?
The bond market is very similar. When we did our comparative analysis between a bond and a local issuance, the total cost difference was $3,000, with actually being more favorable moving towards a promissory note issuance over the bonding market. And when we're evaluating some of the additional factors, obviously cost is one of those, but time frame also is a consideration given where we're at today. In a bond issuance, we would anticipate that would not be funded until sometime at the end of August or early September, and would require pretty significant resources from a financial perspective to complete that process. Where the RFP from an interest rate perspective was very similar in nature again, and had a shorter duration for being able to get the results back as well as being funded by the end of June.
Thank you. I guess we're asking for proposals both on the straight 10-year and then the 15-year amortization with a 10-year balloon. So we can talk about interest savings. And if I look at your dates on here, and I gotta stretch this screen, but I think it was at next month's meeting. The timing would be to open the bids and actually award the bid at that time. Is that correct?
Correct. So what would occur if approved tonight We would issue that RFP. We would receive the bids back the morning of the city council meeting, and then we would bring that forward during the council meeting on the June meeting, which I believe is June 8th.
June 8th.
All right, so, Mr. Mayor, again, I don't want to stop anybody from asking any questions, but I'd offer a motion that we approve this plan to get bids to do the RFP for the financing as it's been laid out tonight for these capital projects.
All right, there is a motion to approve the plan to get some bids and some conversations. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second and discussion.
Yeah.
What are the approximate cost of the bond issues?
So
Go, Carrie.
I can go first. That's fine. That's okay.
I was just curious about the cost of what the bond issuance would be.
So the bond issuance cost would be approximately $30,000 more than the promissory note issuance, and that's for the underwriting costs associated with it.
Okay, thanks.
So when I went through the pre-sale, it looks like there is a chance that when the balloon payment comes due, that it will be an amount that exceeds.
So, Carrie, you're really breaking up.
Oh. Can anybody hear me?
About every other word.
I think it's your microphone.
Is it? Is it? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, after reading through the pre-sale report, it looks like that there's a good chance at the end of the 10-year period that we will have a balloon payment due that in all likelihood we won't be able to pay in full at that time and maybe looking at refinancing. I'm wondering if it would be advantageous for us to add a potential third option. Sorry, I don't know what time I'm using the Chromebook. So
You want to email me?
yeah, I can.
You go real good and then all
Do you just want me to?
breaks up.
Okay.
Yeah, or send it to Ray.
So while we're waiting for that email, go ahead.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? Again, maybe it's because of the uncertainty, the lower payment has a definite allure to it. I know we have been moving to a shorter and shorter time frame to aggressively pay down debt, but I think we're at a stage that maybe it is prudent to extend things out until we have a fuller understanding of the full impact of this pandemic.
I think it's a good point, Mr. Mayor, and I think what's going to help answer that question for us is when the numbers come back. Once we realize what the financial alternatives are, and again, I know this is something that Alderman Lindell brought up in our call last week, all about saving money, and so it's just a matter of what budget constraints may be, and just making the best use. But it's hard to answer the question when we don't know what the cost structure is going to be exactly, and we won't know until we get the responses to the RFP.
Okay, and so Alderman Kraft, we received your question. So Alderman Kraft's question is, would it be advantageous for us to add a third option of a straight 15-year amortization schedule with no balloon payment, since we are likely going to be unable to pay the full balloon payment when due, forcing us to do a 15-year anyways, at an additional cost of $108,000 in regards to the interest rate cost? Good question. When we do go a general obligation route, the banks will authorize that over a 10-year period. They typically do not stretch that over a longer term period, where in the bonding you can extend bonds over, a 20 or 30-year period. Due to this type of promissory note, the longest length of time would be 10 years without having a refinance option with that.
Okay. So you're not asking us to choose the option at this point. You're just asking us to approve the solicitation of RFP.
Correct. So this does not tie the council to anything. We would have the option to, when these bids come back, to go a different route if they weren't favorable as well. But listing it with the option of providing 2 bidding forms for us to consider, that's what we will bring back in June for the council to then further consider, the full financial impact of that into the future. So at this point, this would just giving us authorization to go out and solicit those requests for proposals.
All right. Any other discussion? I think that I forgot to take my notes. I believe do we have a motion and second?
We do.
Yes.
You're perfect. All right, so if no other questions, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Lindell,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes. All right, and that motion passes as well. 8-6, wastewater treatment project.
Environmental Improvement Fund. Good evening, Mayor and Council. At the April Council meeting, City Council awarded the contract for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project to Market & Johnson. In addition to a construction contractor, the project requires the services of an engineering consultant to administer the construction contract, provide inspection, and assist with the administration of the Clean Water Fund loan. Staff have received a proposal from MSA in the amount of $207,000 to provide these services. As part of the Clean Water Fund requirements, staff have also drafted 2 resolutions for the Council's consideration. Resolution 200501, which allows the city to reimburse funds that are spent prior to Clean Water Fund financing being available, and Resolution 200502, which authorizes the utility to file an application for the Clean Water Fund loan. Staff is recommending approval of the contract with MSA for $207,000, approval of Resolution 200501, declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures, and approval of Resolution 200502, authorized to file application for assistance from State of Wisconsin Environmental Improvement Fund.
Does anybody have any questions? All right, not seeing any and not hearing any. Anything you need to add or want to add, Jeremiah?
No, I don't think so. Rayanne, I don't know if you need anything else on the financial resolutions.
No, the financial resolutions are really just a formality that allows us to move ahead with filing the application. And then, like Jeremiah said in the video, if there was any expenditures that occurs before we are funded, it allows us to reimburse ourselves for those outlay of those costs associated with it. My only recommendation would be that you do 3 separate recommendations on it. So just so that we have it noted in the minutes that each resolution would be its own action item.
So, and to make sure I have this correct, not in my packet, so first one would be the award of the administrative contract?
Correct.
The 2 resolutions? All right.
Correct.
All right.
So do we want to do those separately, or can we do them all as one?
Rayanne was saying to do them separate.
All right, I'm going to offer a motion that we award the administrative contract as laid out.
All right, there is a motion to award the administrative contract as proposed. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
The motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Call the roll.
Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Lindell,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kraft.
Yes.
All right, then the resolution for reimbursement declaration.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the resolution for reimbursement declaration as laid out.
All right,
Second.
there's a motion. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the resolution for reimbursement declaration. Is there any discussion? All right, call the roll.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Lindell.
Yes.
All right, then that motion passes. And then the resolution to file application for financial assistance.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a resolution to file, or a motion to approve the resolution to file the application for financial assistance.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Kraft to approve the application for financial assistance. Is there a second to that motion? I'll second it. Second by Alderman Weinmeier. Is there any discussion? Call the roll.
Alderman Lindell,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kraft, we get Carrie.
Did we lose Carrie? Thumbs up. So the motion is basically how do you
Thumbs
vote?
up. Okay.
I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, my network cut out for a second.
So we're doing the roll call and you're up. Do you vote yes or do you vote no?
Yes.
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 Very good.
Got it. And Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
All right, then that motion passes. Item 8.7, Whispering Prairie, the Prairie Road Development Agreement.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The developer GMTZ has been working on residential development in the Fox Run and Whispering Prairie subdivisions over the last few years, and is planning to continue development with an extension of Prairie Road in Whispering Prairie to build out the remaining 31 platted parcels in that development. Staff have drafted a development agreement that outlines the requirements of the public facilities needed, including storm sewer, curb and gutter, street, stormwater treatment ponds, and the multi-use path that will be part of the development to serve those parcels. Staff is recommending approval of this development agreement to allow the developer to move forward with this project in 2020.
Does anybody have any questions for Jeremiah?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Jeremiah, when you say the trail, has that been established? Is it something we're going to talk about? Is it?
What we had, the developer had shown on their plans at our request was a trail along the west side of Prairie Road with a connection into Whispering Prairie Park. So it would connect to the sidewalk around the playground area, and then it would parallel the road from the intersection with Pioneer Trail all the way up to the north end of the road. And then at that north end then is where we start to have the easements in place that would eventually connect us over to Fox Run and potentially into the city via the northern route that we've talked about there before.
But that's on the very north end of Prairie Road, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so that's been established where that's going to go?
The trail
just along
that's
the
going
roadside?
part. Correct, along the roadside.
Okay.
And Jeremiah, how
And would
many
they-
additional lots is that roughly?
It's 31 lots, 31 buildable lots that would be created. Well, I shouldn't say that. The lots exist. It's 31 buildable lots that would be given access.
Sure.
Hey, Jeremiah, has there been discussions about a pond that's currently out there that isn't currently doing its job as a pond? If you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we did talk quite a bit with both the developer and our review staff and DNR, about the possibility of modifying that pond. And because that pond was created really more or less adjacent to or perhaps partially within an existing wetland, the DNR really didn't want or wouldn't allow the modification of that existing pond to create more infiltration there, which is kind of a little bit strange because DNR in general in stormwater treatment is very big on infiltration. But in this case, they didn't want to short circuit kind of the natural wetland that's there. So the alternative that we ended up with is basically a series of two separate ponds that'll be constructed upstream of that existing pond to try to capture and infiltrate that water that's running into that existing pond now from the north and the northwest to some degree. So it'll treat the water from the proposed roadway, but just by essence of the topography out there, it's also going to capture a lot of water that's coming, from the north right now.
I just don't want to miss out on an opportunity to have any leverage over anyone out there to try and correct some of the problems that they're already out there for as far as stormwater and ponds not doing their jobs currently.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Or is
and
there
that
anything
was,
we can do about that?
I don't think so. I mean, really kind of hit a dead end with the DNR as far as making modifications to that existing pond.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, I would entertain a motion at this time. And Jeremiah, do you want to go over the staff recommendation real quick?
Yes. I can get there.
I would make a motion. I would make a motion that we approve the development agreement with GMTZ for Whispering Prairie, or for Whispering Prairie.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to move forward with the development agreement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, let's call the roll.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Lindell,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
All right, and that motion passes. Item 8.8, the Canadian National Project Update.
I think we're having some technical.
Noah? So the video isn't working. Can you give a quick update? Can you tell
Yes, can you
us
hear
what
me
you
okay?
told us in the video?
Go ahead.
Yeah, very briefly, there's kind of two tracks right now in regards to the Canadian National Project. There's an ongoing matter before the Office of the Commissioner of Railroads. So there's an upcoming deadline next week currently for the town and city to submit testimony. Canadian National previously submitted testimony a couple of weeks ago. And that issue is in regards to the railroad crossing with 105th Street and whether that should be an at-grade crossing or whether the 105th Street as it currently exists should be discontinued, ending in a cul-de-sac. The other issue that we're working on is trying to address some of the other issues that city staff have identified and that we've heard from the community in regards specifically to the site, in terms of lighting, noise, hours of operation, but also some of the bigger, larger impacts in terms of what impact is that going to have on public safety, what impact does it have on local streets, and some of those other matters. And so we are continuing some dialogue with Canadian National, as well as some of our state representatives. And so that's kind of an ongoing dialogue as well. So happy to answer any questions that you have, or Mike and Nick as well, I'm sure can answer questions as well.
Anybody have any questions for Noah? I think the next phone call is Thursday.
Yes, we're just waiting for confirmation for the time, but yeah, we're planning to have a call Thursday, and then we are looking to have some public engagement opportunity as well in the coming weeks for the public to be able to ask questions, learn more about the project as well.
I think the only thing I'd like to add is that it's really important that people understand we don't have, this isn't just a normal business coming in and wanting to develop some property. They have their own set of rules. And as I understand it, it's not like they really asked the town of Richmond what they wanted. They're not asking the city of Richmond what they want. They're just doing their thing. So it's frustrating. People have expressed to me their views of what's happening west of town, and it's a concern. The traffic, there's actually a number of concerns, and it's just really important. We're going to do what we can do, but just at this point right now, the railroad seems to hold, if not all the cards. If it's a 52 card deck, they hold 51.9 of the cards relative to decision making. So great effort on the city staff part. I know that the town of Richmond is involved in this as well, but just we're putting effort forth to try to affect change, but it is very difficult.
Yeah, and Mike, if I could just add to that, a couple of things. First of all, as Noah noted, this action that's currently pending before the Office of Commissioner of Railroads really involves the question of whether the railroad can force the town to accept a brand new road and force it to accept the maintenance costs and the liability costs associated with all the intermodal and truck traffic. So that's a big issue for the town. The access point is a big issue for the city because it has the potential to direct some traffic through the city. But one of the things that Noah's done, which we're finding more and more instructive every day, is the fact that Canadian National has projects in various different states, including Michigan, including Illinois, and including Wisconsin here in Chippewa Falls. And we're finding that in the communities where Canadian National has other projects, they're entering into development agreements and they're addressing items like quiet hours and safety and training for the local police force and whatnot. And so when Noah mentions the two-track, both in terms of addressing and dealing with the relocation or the relocation of the roadway 105th, and then the secondary piece of trying to address some of these other issues, we do know that Canadian National has a history of working with communities. For whatever reason, they've chosen not to take that approach here with the town of Richmond site, but that's been the primary focus of the city's efforts, is really to get the railroad back to the table to at least address some of these points which are important to the residents, both the town residents and the city residents that live out that way. But they're also important to the PD. They're important to our other professionals that are going to have to deal with this site as well. So trying to pull some of that back so we can at least keep those issues in the forefront because they are very important to the city.
All right. And Carrie, why don't you give us the thumbs up when you can hear us again?
I can hear you through my phone now.
All right, perfect. All right, does anybody have any other questions or any discussion for Noah? Or to Nick, I should say. All right, and so as like I mentioned, the next conversation with the railroad is on Thursday, so we can update everybody after that on kind of where we're at. If you do have any questions, concerns, we relay them to staff so that they can be addressed as well. All right, item 8.9, the certified survey maps, the west 100 block of Knowles Avenue. And we'll turn that to Noah as well. Like, Noah, you're going to have to talk again.
That's right. You have to watch the great home videos sometime. But I can just give a very brief summary. Previously, last fall, the City Council authorized staff to work with a surveyor to prepare a certified survey map for the alleyway behind the West 100 block of Knowles Avenue. So this alleyway extends kind of beginning, it would be West 2nd Street, so behind EF5, KBA Technology, and extends behind Sweet Beet Bakery. Shaped actually somewhat like a number 9, and then there's kind of the donut hole in the center, which is a privately owned parcel. The certified survey map in your packet basically is just divvying up that alleyway to the abutting property. There would be 2 small easements as needed for utilities and for access. But the staff recommendation would be to approve the certified survey map. We also have the legal descriptions that we would be working to deed that property over to the abutting businesses. So happy to answer any questions you have. Again, the recommendation from staff would be to approve the CSM.
And then, Noah, is this the final step? So is the quitclaim deed, is this part of that as well?
So that would be done in conjunction with the certified survey map. So this would be the final action needed from the City Council.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion that we approve the 2 certified survey maps relative to this project, the West 100 block of Knowles Avenue.
I'll second that.
And there's a motion and a second to approve the CSMs and the quitclaim deeds once this is all over and done with. Is there any discussion?
So the city would no longer own any land back there?
That's correct. There would be a utility and access easement, but we would no longer own the alleyway.
Good.
Any other discussion? All right, call the roll.
Alderman Kraft?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Lindell?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
All right, that motion passes as well. Item 8.10 is the utility improvements, the Naser Heights development. Jeremiah, you are up.
All right.
We're having
You'll have to get the attic version of the video now. As you know, the Derrick Companies is developing the Naser Heights subdivision near Richmond Way and 140th. And as we went through that development review process, we found that 16 of those 50 proposed lots were going to have substandard water pressure. And as we kind of dug into that a little deeper, we found that 36 existing lots on Hollywood Boulevard have substandard water pressure. And so we partnered with the developer to design a water booster station that would serve all 52 of those parcels with a boosted water pressure. And so this went to the Utility Commission at their March meeting, so kind of the last Utility Commission meeting before the pandemic. And at that point, we didn't really have the design completed. We had an initial cost estimate of $100,000 for kind of the shared portion, which is the booster station itself. That would be split between the city and the developer. As well as the water main connection from the booster station to the existing water system on Hollywood Boulevard. So those costs have come back at a higher amount than what was originally estimated. So what we're requesting from the council is authorization to increase the water utilities total investment in the project to $120,855.88.
Anybody have any questions?
I was just wondering, I did see that.
Go ahead, Kirk.
I saw the video version earlier, Jeremiah, that you'd recorded, and it's it went up from 100,000 to 120,000, part of the city's obligation, and you mentioned a higher cost for the
Kirk, you're breaking up as well.
All right, well, just skip it.
Well, actually, Kirk, were you asking about the change in the price? Was that your question?
Jeremiah, can you explain the change?
Yeah. So the primary reasons for the difference in the price had to do with the main one. You know, the city is the water utility is paying for 100% of the water main to connect the booster station to Hollywood Boulevard. And so when we put that estimate together, we're using 2019 water main per lineal foot pricing, and those numbers have gone up significantly in 2020, between 20 and 50% from what we were seeing last year. So that was a big part of it. The other piece of it was really just some site work related to kind of the final location where the booster station is going to end up. Involved having to do a little additional site work to make it work.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve this water utility investment in that shared booster station, get the connection to Hollywood Boulevard, and that revised amount of $120,855.88.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a second from Kittle. Is there any discussion? All right, call the roll. This is for the Naser Heights development. Michelle, go ahead, call the roll.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Lindell,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Alderman Volkert, how do you vote?
Yes. Yes.
Alderman Kraft.
Yes.
All right, and that passes. Brings us to 8.11, the boards and commissions appointments. I've spoke to all of you, and for the most part, everyone retained everything that they had. Obviously, Carrie picked up a few things. I guess the only other thing I'll throw out there is if you guys change your minds down the road 6 months from now, you want something different, we're always happy to try and accommodate, and you guys are free to horse trade as you see fit if you want changes in your appointments down the road. Anybody have
Well, just one question, Mr. Mayor. Is Public Works on here? And Public Safety?
Should be. Public Works should be.
There were
It's
two
not.
attachments sent. One was the full list of all of the boards and commissions. One was just of anything with the alderperson and the changes. So if somebody new was. So the one that is titled 2020-21 boards and commissions is the full listing of every board and commission. The one that is titled, I believe it's updates.
So maybe it is missing. So Public Works stays the same, except for Harry Kraft replacing Jim Sikowski. But Kittle, Lindell, and Kraft on Public Works.
And then Public Safety stays Volkert, Weinmeier, Montello.
Yes.
Very
Dello,
good, thank you.
Weinmeier, correct. Any other questions?
I did have a question on one of the documents, Michelle. It shows that Craig Kittle is on Plan Commission, and then on another document it shows that Gary Kraft is. So I just wanted to clarify who is actually on Plan Commission.
Be Kittle, according to my
Okay.
notes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why you inherited Library Board.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion that we approve the board and commission appointments for 2020, 2021 as presented.
All right, there is a motion to approve the appointments. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and several seconds. For the Board
That's a
of
fourth
Commissioners.
now.
Yep. It's all good. Is there any discussion? Not seeing or hearing any, can we call the roll?
Alderman Lindell,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kraft,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
And that passes. Thank you guys and good luck on your tasks. Item 9 is communications and miscellaneous. Is there any communications? I guess, again, thank you guys for bearing with us on these technical issues as we work through all of this. We will get better. We will someday be back all together here in the council chambers.
Sooner than later.
Hopefully so. Does anybody else have any communications? All right, not seeing or hearing any. Adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
The motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agreed. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash.
Recording has stopped.